Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Titans. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Well, first and foremost, we finally get to catch up with Rachel for the first time, and we see her on, I can only assume it's the mascara, because that's not unless that's somewhere else that they are, but at least some part of the mascara, I'd assume. But it's like, yeah, it's kind of like rituals they're performing to try and bring Donna back, but it's kind of a slow process, whereas, you know, you have Rachel kind of believing like, no, I can bring her back. I know I can do it with my powers and everything. I know I can do this. I just need to be given a chance. But they're all about their rituals and everything. And she's training on the island, but obviously she doesn't like the island and stuff like that. Even later on when she gets called out for it because she tried to secretly try and use her powers of bringing Donna back fast, but it's all about patience and stuff like that. But she's like, your way isn't working. I know for a fact I can do it. And so Lydia kind of calls her out, which she had that person trying to be like, no. Rachel's like a visitor on this island. She doesn't know our ways. But then like Rachel proceeds to, let's be frank, basically shit on their like way of life and their culture, because it's like, it's so, I mean, to be fair, she's young and like, you know, prideful and thinking like, no, I can do this. Like, I know I have the power. Like, you guys are just cowards. You're just afraid of my power and stuff like that. I mean, Donna left this island, became a hero. You guys stay here kind of stuck in your ways and you're cowards for it, which I'm like, that's kind of messed up for you to just like roll up in someone else's house in their island and be like, oh, everything that you're doing is wrong. It's like, fuck it, it's wrong and you're shit. It's terrible. Like, you know, it's like, it's just so like, oh, that's, but I think it's also like, I think that comes from like almost like this arrogance of, you know, she thinks she can do it, but also it's like, you know, you have youth on your side. It's like, oh, like you young whippersnappers, like you know, you think you've got it all figured out when in actuality you don't know as much as you think you know. I mean, because that was even the whole point of like, you don't really know that much. She doesn't know that much about our ways, so let's not punish her. But Lydia's actual punishment ended up being not an actual punishment, because like, you know, Rachel's like, oh, like, I thought you were going to throw me in a pit or make me fight a whole bunch of sharks. And it's like, you can do with like talking a little less. It's like, honestly, you can. Because it's like, yeah, you're just like, you know, I mean, this is us getting a peek into it. Like, she must have been like this for months or whatever. But, you know, I kind of think like, but I get it. It's like, you think it's like, no, there's a faster solution. Just let me do my thing and I can be strong enough to bring her back. But basically, Lydia wanted her to basically using every stone, recreate what basically, there was a warrior long ago that basically made an image of the soul and stuff like that. And it's like, right, the whole process is supposed to be like, oh, like, you know, because at first, like, Rachel's like, oh, is that all it is, just to use all the rocks and rebuild it? It's like, yeah, you know, it's like, oh, she's like, that doesn't seem hard. It's like, yeah, no harder than actually building a soul. That's what it's supposed to be representative of. Like, if you can build this, it is representative of, like, if any attempt you actually make to try to rebuild a soul, it's a representative of that. And so, obviously, at first, Rachel's kind of struggling with it. And even Lydia kind of talks about like this process. It has happened before and it's worked before, but there's been many times where it hasn't. Like in her case, her daughter died and she wasn't able to bring her back. And it's like, oh, I'm sorry to hear that. But, you know, for them, it's like, she's like, I've seen it happen. I know it can work. We just don't understand enough to know why it works and why it doesn't. And that will kind of like play into the rest of the episode. But I do like to cut back and forth between like, because also at the same time, I'm like, yeah, because we never know like how much time has passed. Because I mean, later on, it seems like, you know, I mean, death is that interesting thing of like, yeah, this all happens in the blink of an eye. Like I said, we'll get to it soon enough. But it's like, yeah, 97 or like 93 or 97 seconds, something like that. We'll get to it soon enough. But I thought it was so fascinating how Rachel, even when she was using her powers, she couldn't piece it together, you know, and it's like she did, she almost had it working and then it like all crumbled apart, and it was just kind of a thing of finally accepting like, right, Donna's dead and there's no bringing her back. It was almost, it's meant to be a teachable lesson in regard of like, you learn what you don't know. Like once again, like she believed like, no, I can bring her back. She was trying before, but like she actually, when she snuck and tried to do it, but it didn't happen, it didn't work. The argument could be like, right, I didn't get a full chance to do it, but it's like, right, with this representation, it's like, right, piecing together a soul isn't the easiest thing. It's very complex, and it's like, it's beyond any of their, even beyond Rachel's powers, as mighty as they are. It's like, I can't do anything for her. Because there was also the conversation from Lydia of like, right, we have to remember, why are we bringing this person back? Are we doing it because like, who are we doing it for? Kind of like, right, are you trying to bring Donna back because you, like, oh, it's because it's what Donna wants, and I think that kind of plays into things, or is it just because you want to bring her back? Like, that's the thing of, like, and it's just like, right, gotta accept that Donna's gone and she doesn't want, I don't know whether there is a deeper thing of, like, right, if Donna's not coming back, it's because she doesn't want to come back. Is that supposed to be the thing of, like, right, accepting that she's dead because she's accepted it and she's moved on? Like, I don't know if that's supposed to be it, or, at least from, like, Rachel's side of things. Like I said, we'll get to the other side of things soon enough, but I didn't know, like, how to, like, whether there was that layer of that conversation, or was it just kind of, just purely just accepting death in general, accepting what you can't change, even though, like I said, Lydia herself said it, but I think Rachel was so focused on this that she was thinking, like, right, like, the punt, like, am I supposed to, like, leave now? Like, that, it's like, you would want me to leave. It's like, was that what you were hoping for? Which Lydia was like, no, but at the end of the day, you've kind of found your answers, and I think it's like, right, she needs to go home. I mean, I think everyone back home could use her help, and I'm still curious, and I guess that's not the case, but I was wondering, like, whether or not, like, the visions they've been seeing, whether or not that was her. I assumed it was, but maybe there was something else at play here. Like I said, I assumed that that's what that was about, but I guess I was wrong with the context of all of this, that it might not have been Rachel sending the message. Once again, maybe she was doing it subconsciously because she was worried about the team. Because that's a whole conversation, too, about, like, right, she's like, we trained as the Titans, but it was never, like, never, like, for the battles you thought it kind of would be, and ultimately it was. Like, it's like, but obviously Lydia talked about, that's the thing about, like, a battle, like, one battle begets another battle. Like, it's always kind of a cycle, just like one battle after another and stuff like that. Once you start one fight, it always leads to another and another and another, and it's kind of the endless struggle. And that actually kind of fits actually very nicely into, like, the context of the other side of things, which we're kind of getting our, I guess it's kind of like supposed to be purgatory. At least it's Universe's version of purgatory, where you're on a train and Tim is there. I wish I had paid a little bit more attention to, like, everyone that was on the train. Maybe there might have been someone of note on a train that I wasn't aware of, or was it, like, I was trying to pay attention, but I didn't pay as much attention as I could have and should have. So, but I am curious, like, were there any other, like, Easter eggs of, like, who might have actually been on that train, and is that supposed to be, like, indicative of, like, the continuity that is this universe? Because once again, you don't know where everyone's stories, like, what's happened in this universe, what hasn't happened, what villains are established, what villains aren't, like, that type of question, stuff like that. So continuity stuff, like, there might have been some winks and nods on that train that I just didn't catch. But I'm curious, is that what the conductor always looks like? Because he kind of, like, got up at one point in time. He had, like, this monstrous growl that I thought, like, he would actually transform into some creature. I don't know if he might not be related to the ghouls or anything, because he's just meant to be, like, the conductor who, like, sends you on your way. But he's on the train. Tim's running, and lo and behold, who does he run to? Donna. Which I think that speaks volumes of Tim recently dying, and Donna still on a train, even though it's been months since she died. I think that kind of, time is irrelevant there. I mean, we've seen that time and time again in different things, like The Good Place, or even, like, American Gods touch on just, like, how time plays out and stuff like that. It doesn't work that way, like the afterlife and purgatory and all that. But Tim can't remember, what happened, but he doesn't want to, like, go to the afterlife. He's like, no, I have to get back, I have to go back. And Donna's just all about, like, right, kind of just accepting it, because she has. And in the woods, it's like, why are you following me then? And she's like, no, I don't work with the people on the train, but, like, you looked scared and I wanted to help you. But she wanted them to go back, because it's like, right, we just have to accept things as they are. We're dead, and there's no changing that, because she had accepted that. But then these ghouls popped up, and we find out later on that they're ghouls, and they devour your soul. And when they grab you, they send you to Hades, and there's no coming back from that. But luckily, someone rode up to help them, and none other than it's like, yeah, it's your boy Hank. I was like, yeah, Hank. I love Alan Richardson as Hank / Hulk. He does such a good job at it. So it's like an explanation about, right, what's going on. So, like, yeah, like, a lot, let's talk about the elephant in the room. He's like, the elephant? And she's like, yeah, you're dead. And he's like, yeah. She's like, how? It's like, Jason fucking Todd. He's like, yeah, I know the kid was fucked up, but it's like, oh yeah, like, yeah, he's going around like kid got messed up, and now he's like a Deathstroke meets Gimp calling himself Red Hood, strapped a bomb to my chest, Dan, and made a big boom sound. And just like, I'm sorry, just, making sure everybody's okay. Just, she's like, oh, you're so such an asshole. He's like, sorry, you're good. But it's like, right, I can't believe what happened to you. She's like, man, Don must be devastated. I love him. He's like, she better be. I'm like, I get it. You're like, yeah, like, it's no, like, he's not in that phase where it's like, no, I want her to move on. It's like, no, she better be sad. I hope she's sad, because, like, if she's moved on, it means, like, oh, like, it's just interesting to know, like, on the other side of things, like, dead people are worried, like, oh, like, is that person moved on? Oh, they're mourning, like, they're devastated. That means, like, oh, yeah, like, what we had was important because they still haven't gotten over me. So, like, it's a selfish thing, but it's like, yeah, I think any person would want to feel like that. Like, it would take a long time. You want someone to eventually get over you, but just like, I don't want you to get over me too quickly, So, but they go back to his place, his kind of setup and everything, and basically he fills Donna in about like his plans of like trying to come back to life. And it's like, yeah, like, it's like the team needs me. The team needs us to be there, because obviously he's telling Tim, like, we'll find a way out of this. I'll try to get you back to life. But Donovan's like, no, that can't be. Like, death is death. It's a one-way ticket, because that was the whole thing about, like, that's why, like, the train is the metaphor. It's like the afterlife's not very subtle about its metaphors, but it's meant to be a train always going forward, never going backwards. Because that's supposed to be what you're supposed to be learning from this. You're supposed to be moving forward, not backwards. And she feels like trying to hold on to life is her moving backwards. But it's like, I love that Hank is like, nah, I got so much left to do. And, he's like, it's like that, you don't want to kick that little, like, you don't want to kick Jason's ass or something like that. He's like, I got to kick Jason's ass. Don't you want to kick his little ass or something like that? And it's like, she's like, is that what this is all about, revenge? She's like, you goddamn right it is. That little fucker blew me up. But the fact is that, like, I think it's so interesting because there's some part of my brain, it's like, I didn't think about it till after the episode, because I was like, there was a little time between me watching the episode and me recording this. And, the song, I Hate Hartley by The Amity Affliction popped into my head, specifically the chorus. I won't sing it because, for one, I'm a god-awful singer, too, copyright and stuff like that, but it's just kind of like taking your life with subtle steps instead of not wanting all that's left. That's like part of the chorus. So like that kind of represented in my head of just kind of like Hank and both Tim feel this draw of like, right, like I have so much life left. Life was just getting there. And I'm like, no, I'm gonna go back. I need to go back. Whereas Donna just kind of accepted it. Like for her, it's like, it is a thing of like, it sucks. That's life though. Like you have to accept the fact is it doesn't come the way you want it. Like even the end doesn't come the way you want it. She's like, I didn't save the world from some asteroid or something like that. No, I died in a carnival. Part of me wonders, like, is that like the writers of the show, like poking at the fact is that probably people didn't like the way Donna went out. So is that them kind of referencing that? Or is that just like them just being like, we don't care about, like, I'm not saying we don't care about what the fans said, but that's not why we wrote it that way. Is because Donna would hope that if she did go out, is in some bombastic, heroic thing of like, no, like, I went out like not the most heroic way, but it's like, no, like even Hank was like, but you went out saving someone, like, like you might feel like it wasn't like, cause you were like, it didn't, cause for Donna, it's like, despite all the crime fighting we did, we saved people, but it's like, did we move the needle in any shape or form? Like, did we do anything in a grand scheme of things? She's like, I don't. But Hank was like, for that person you saved, it probably, they wouldn't think, like, they would think everything of it. They wouldn't think nothing of it. But, I think it's also just cause Donna just feels like I don't want to go back. Like, why would I want to go back? So part of me is like, oh, maybe that's why like Rachel can't pull her back, because she's accepting. She's like, right, I want to move forward and not backwards. But when the ghouls show up and Hank pulls out some guns, I was like, oh, that was interesting. But it's like, we'll get to that in a second. But he talks about the fact is, I know you were full of crap. And Donna's like, what are you talking about? It's like, you talk about like you're being done, you accept everything, that you're done, like the whole hero business. But the moment they came in, what'd you do? You ran to that kid to make sure he was okay, and you defended him. Like, it's still in you. It's still ingrained in you of being a hero. But then even Tim's like, I've made my choice. I want to go back. Like, I know who you are. You're Donna Troy, and you're Hank. You're Hulk. And it's like, guys, I've studied all of you. I know, like, Dick Grayson is Nightwing. Like, I know about Beast Boy and Starfire and Superboy. Like, I know all that. Like, I want to go back. For him, what he remembers, like, when Hank fired those shots, how he died, he's like, I was trying to help out the Titans, and I got scared. I froze, and I ran away and got shot in the back. And he's like, I don't want to die a coward. It's like, and she's basically like, you don't need to be, just because you're scared doesn't make you like you don't have to not be scared to be a hero. But for him, it's like, no, like I've got more life to live. Like this is, she's like, you know, there's no guarantee even if you go back, things are going to work out. He's like, I know I'm not asking for a guarantee, Miss Choi. I'm just asking for a chance, you know? Which I love that it's just kind of like, all right, drop the Miss Choi. And even earlier, he's like, ma'am. She's like, ma'am. And I love it later on, she brings it up. He's like, Miss Choi. She's like, stop calling me Miss Choi. Like, how old do you think I am? And he's like, I don't know, old, like 30. And she's just like, what? Which I love that. It's so funny because it's like, as a 29-year-old myself, it's like, oh yeah, like it's that young, once again, you whippersnappers think you know everything. It's like, oh, you're 30, you're over 25, you've already gone over a quarter of your life. Oh, aren't you? Oh, you're practically dead. That's like supposed to be like the like Gen Z joke of like if you're 30 or something like that. I think that's what that's supposed to be, but nevertheless. But it's like, right, Tim wants to go back, and so Donna's like, right, I'll help. And it's like, all right, together. He's like, Hank feeling like, I knew it. And she's like, shut up. But it's like, all right, like, hand me the guns or whatever. And it's like, oh, those aren't actually real guns. Basically, he's like, yeah, like, you know, it took me a while, but, you know, when I was dead, you know, I came into, you know, spirituality, like, he's like, I got very spiritual, and Donna laughs, and he's like, what? You know what, forget it then. She's like, no, Hank, I'm sorry, because it's like the thought of him being like that, it's like, yeah, but, you know, he started thinking about things, and it's like, in this place you can manifest stuff, like, as, you know, in that moment he was scared, he was like, I wish I had a gun right now to help defend myself, and, you know, they popped up, so... And I love that when they get out the car, like, you see Tim in the back trying to do it. He's kind of like, he's pretending like he's drawing invisible guns, like a cowboy style, just kind of nothing happening. But, yeah, they find, like, the upside-down tree, and that's supposed to be the way to the bridge, which they find their way to the bridge, and it's like, all right, let's do this. But the ghouls show up, and it's like, all right, I love Hank. Donna tries to summon some weapons, but it ends up being two bottles, and she's like, really? Smashes them together and gets some broken bottles. And Hank's like, all right, let's do this. And he manifests, like, the Robin batarangs, and it was like, come on, I'm pretty sure I wasn't thinking of Grayson, which I was like, is that only a, like, Dick situation? Because, like, did Jason never do that? I was trying to remember. I was like, did he ever use those? I don't think he did. Like, was that just, like, Dick's, like, special, like, was that something specific to him? Like, was, like, Jason try to, like, freestyle, do his own thing without completely copying Grayson in that regard? I don't know. But then also, he, like, tries it, well, he misses one, and he tries it again, and it's, like, summons nunchucks. Well, at the same time, like, Donna does her thing and immediately summons a sword. It would have been interesting to see what, I think it's because Tim was kind of shooken. He was shooketh at that moment, so, he couldn't, like, summon anything. But, because I was curious, like, what his thing would have been something Robin-related, considering he wants to be Robin. I thought, like, maybe it would have summoned a staff or something. But Donna's slicing through him, the bridge is breaking apart. Even at one point, like, she gets Tim to jump. The moment, like, you had Hank be like, jump, and it's like, I was like, he's gonna stay behind to sacrifice himself. It's like, because I figured, like, if you do go back, Donna and Tim have a body to go back to. What about Hank? He was literally blown to bits. Like, would you, like, it'd been impossible anyway, I think, you know, but I think, whatever the case may be, maybe he knew on some level, maybe he was still just hopeful, but it's like, you guys go, because, like, Donna summons, like, the lasso of truth and yanks him forward, and it's like, they go through them all, and, you know, he's like, you guys go on ahead. He's like, you take the kid and go and tell Donna I love her. And he's like doing this thing, and lo and behold, what does he summon? A bat. He's like, I can deal with this. So I'm like, oh, because I was almost hoping like, oh, maybe he gets his Hulk suit and he starts slicing through him, like he suits up one more time. It's like, nah, he gets the bat, which obviously that's all coming full circle in that regard. But yeah, where things kind of started for him with this whole vigilante act, and for, you know, Donna and Tim were able to make it through. They vanish, you know. But like I said, Tim wakes up and it's like, oh yeah, he was dead for like 97 seconds. It's like all that was done in that time frame. Donna wakes up, and by the time she does, like, you know, Rachel comes to find her because she has a feeling, but like Donna's already bounced. And so at the same time, like Hank is like, right, he's kind of like resolved himself to be like, yeah, like, I'm kind of stuck here, but lo and behold, who is he running to? His brother. I'm like, yo, at least there's something out of this, because Hank did talk about the fact is that he is helping people, anyone that got off the train before, like, they reached their destination. Well, once again, like, I guess because time is what it is, and maybe on some level, Donna hadn't fully accepted things like she thought she had, so, she was still on the train, because he was saying like, yeah, there's got to be a reason why we all found each other. Like, I found you, you found this kid. Like, there's a reason for this, and I do believe that there is. And, but Hank is reunited with brothers. Like, yeah, there's a lot of people that, getting murdered by those ghouls. And it's like, we got to do, this world could use some Dove and Dove and Hulk. And like, no, Hulk and Dove. It's like, no, Dove and Hulk. It's like, all right, we'll work on the name. But it's like them being together. Like, at least there's some silver lining to it. And it is interesting because it's like, right, he's like, you almost did miss me. And it's like, I guess it wasn't Hank's time to go back. Like, if it is possible, like it is like, nah, he is gone. But he's reunited with his brother on the other side. And, he's helping people, I think. He's still doing the good fight, just in a different plane of existence. So I think that's, there's at least some silver lining to it, because I figured, like, he probably wasn't going to, I figured, like, maybe Donna, and even without thinking about the whole, like, right, your body's blown to bits thing, I just had a feeling like it would be a thing of he'd have to sacrifice himself so they could go back. I almost thought that was part of the plan, but it's like, no, I think maybe on some level he knew, but he just wanted to hope, hold out a little bit of hope about it. But it's like, right, the reason he was here was to help other, and maybe that'll play a role in other things going forward. We'll ultimately have to wait and see. But Donna coming back couldn't have come at a better time, because Bruce is trying to kill himself, because he signed like a will and stuff like that. And I guess it's just like, yeah, everything that he's done, he's crossed that line by killing the Joker. He blames himself for Jason. It's like Dick is just as screwed up as I am. Like, I've made so many mistakes, and I can't make up for them anymore. I mean, especially when Dick called him out. Well, he had him and Barbara call him out for all the stuff that he's done. And, it's just, I messed so many people up. He was even trying to immediately find a replacement for Jason, and he had just buried Jason. He wasn't even he wasn't even cold in the ground yet when you're trying to, to be fair, he wasn't really in the ground for long at all, considering he got brought back to the Lazarus pit, so. But regardless, Donna showed up in time to save him, and I'm like, how does she know to get there in time? Or is he in a relatively close enough area? Maybe she figured, like, I'm curious, like, maybe, like, upon coming back to life, like, there was something there that, like, why does she know to go to, like, him? Like, where was he for her to be in a position, like, and maybe she was stopping by there to, like, supply up before she goes back, and it just works out perfectly. Right, I just happened to come back before Bruce ended up killing himself. It's like, she was dead, but not anymore, and it's like, right, time to get back to work. There's plenty of work left to do, so a lot of interesting developments. I'm curious also what this is going to mean for Themyscira, knowing, like, oh, like, Donna came back, like, so what does that mean in the grand scheme of things? I don't know, it's definitely going to be interesting to ultimately see where all of this takes us going forward into the next episode, because I'm sure Rachel's going to kind of rush back home to find out, like, oh, Donna's okay, what this means for Tim. Obviously, Gotham's in the situation that is in, but it's like, yeah, all this is happening, like, so we'll get the flip side of things probably next episode. I'm curious, like, will we pick up with, like, partway through the episode, will Tim get better, and that's where we find ourselves, like, that'll be partway through next episode, or will it be like next episode takes place entirely after Tim's already gotten better? I'm curious how that's all going to play out, but I'm very excited to see what the next episode has in store for us with all of this. But really, that's all I'm going to talk about. So the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.